We are getting our first look at O.J. Simpson's will, which he signed just a few months before his death.
O.J. Simpson, champion running back turned global icon, once commanded headlines for his athletic feats. Yet it was the events that began in June 1994 when his ex-wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ronald Goldman were brutally stabbed to death outside her Brentwood home, that launched one of the most anticipated and scrutinized trials in American history. The investigation swiftly turned toward Simpson. 5 days later, he became the center of a live televised police pursuit in a white Ford Bronco, gripping an audience estimated at 95 million people, an event that forever altered media coverage of criminal justice. That surreal chase, the evidence trail, the courtroom drama, all played out in real time, making this not just a legal battle, but a cultural turning point. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. In the pre-dawn hours of June 13, 1994, Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman were found dead, victims of a brutal, frenzied attack. Investigators quickly documented a horrific scene: blood trails, a bloody glove on the walkway, a cap stained with blood, and distinct shoe prints. As forensic teams combed her condominium in Simpson's Rockingham estate, evidence mounted rapidly. Blood stains on Simpson's Bronco, socks and driveway, a matching glove found near his home, and an apparent cut on Simpson's left middle finger. By June 17th, an arrest warrant was issued for Simpson, who, allegedly contemplating suicide, eluded police by sparking the daytime marathon chase. Beyond the chase's optical spectacle lay deeper societal divisions. The LAPD's tainted history following the Rodney King incident, simmering racial distrust, and lingering media appetites for scandal. The defense, led by Johnny Cochran, F. Lee Bailey, Robert Shapiro, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Kardashian, and Carl Douglas, famously dubbed the Dream Team, embraced these fractures to reshape public perception and jury sentiment. Their approach hinged on three pillars: dismantle the prosecution's forensic narrative, cast reasonable doubt on evidence handling, and expose racial bias within police conduct. When the trial began on January 24, 1995, under Judge Lance Ito, jurors faced a mountain of testimony over 8 gripping months. The prosecution, led by Marcia Clark and Christopher Darden, presented a meticulous case: DNA matches from the crime scene, blood inside Simpson's car and home, a cut on his hand consistent with defensive wounds, and size 12 Bruno Magli shoe prints at the scene. Their argument centered on motive: domestic violence, jealousy, and prior abuse, interpreting this evidence as painting Simpson guilty beyond any doubt. Yet the defense seized the narrative. They unveiled taped dialogue in which Detective Mark Furman used racial slurs, calling him a racist and suggesting he planted evidence. They loudly decried chaotically maintained crime scenes, raising concerns about contamination, unguarded evidence, and opportunistic media access, each a crack in the prosecution's foundation. Then came the trial's most revealing moment: Simpson trying on the bloody leather gloves in front of the jury, exclaiming they were too tight. Cochran seized the moment. "If it doesn't fit, you must acquit." Simultaneously, the defense shredded the timeline, poured over lab techniques, and emphasized police misconduct and racialized motives. Public loyalty fractured along lines of race. CNN exit polls showed a stark divide. Most African Americans believed in Simpson's innocence, while a significant majority of whites thought him guilty, reflecting broader fractures in faith toward legal institutions. The jury deliberated less than 4 hours. On October 3, 1995, O.J. Simpson was acquitted, not convicted, marking a historic reversal of expectations. Almost immediately, the families of Nicole and Ron filed a civil lawsuit. The standard there was lower: preponderance of evidence. In February 1997, the jury ruled Simpson liable, ordering him to pay $33.5 million, $8.5 million compensatory, and $25 million punitive damages. Yet payments were sparse. Simpson largely avoided repayment, generating years of financial dispute in bankruptcy court. Simpson's legal no travel ended. In September 2007, he spearheaded a Las Vegas armed robbery at the Palace Station Casino, aiming to reclaim memorabilia he claimed were stolen. Flashing weapons, he and accomplices forcibly took items from dealers. Convicted on 12 felony charges, he was sentenced to a maximum of 33 years, with eligibility for parole after 9. He served 9 years at Nevada's Lovelock Prison and, after good behavior, gained parole and early discharge in December 2021. Released October 1st, 2017, he spent his final years in Nevada and Florida until his death from prostate cancer on April 10th, 2024, aged 76. Posthumously, the legal and financial fallout continued. In August 2024, his estate's executor aimed to settle debts, including to the Goldman family, who were seeking as much as $117 million, the IRS and California tax authorities, by potentially liquidating his Las Vegas home and even converting his ashes into jewelry for his children. The Goldmans remained vocal. Kim Goldman co-hosted a podcast series confronting O.J. Simpson, interviewing Marcia Clark, Kato Kalin, and others, and kept the conversation alive. The case's legacy echoes across domains. In domestic violence, Nicole's brutal death amplified public awareness and fueled the passage of the Violence Against Women Act in September 1994. In forensics, the trial spotlighted DNA's power and its pitfalls, prompting protocols and the field's mainstream integration. On media, the Bronco chase and prolonged coverage propelled what we now know as trial television, presaging reality TV and 24/7's cable news addiction. And at the intersection of race and justice, it deepened skepticism and memory scars from Rodney King, yet also forced enduring conversations about systemic bias. In recent years, interest in the case revived. In June 2024, the FBI released 475 pages of investigative archives, including shoeprint analysis on rare Bruno Magli footwear and details on media coordination. In early 2025, Netflix premiered American Manhunt, O.J. Simpson, a 4-part docuseries interviewing participants, jurors, defense, prosecution, police, framing the trial through lenses of #MeToo and Black Lives Matter, and asking whether the nation has changed since 1995. Simultaneously, Court TV released Trial and Error. Why did O.J. win? Revisiting evidence contamination, domestic violence allegations, racial context, glove drama, and jury deliberations in the court that made history. Even the murky aftermath persists. In late 2023, Simpson's former bodyguard Iracavelli claimed to hold a thumb drive with a secret audio confession from Simpson. Law enforcement seized drives, but found no such confession per police statements. That controversy remains unresolved. Today, the world is left with questions no verdict can fully answer. Did justice truly prevail? Did media frenzy distort the legal process? Has the system learned from this spectacle, or simply become smarter at packaging crisis into primetime drama? Nicole's and Ron's lives remain frozen in grief. Their families continue to fight, seeking financial justice, closure, and public healing. The nation lives with the reverberations of this moment, watching, remembering, and still debating what justice truly means. Even now, conversations awaken fresh insights. Did missing the murder weapon hurt the prosecution? What if other witnesses had testified? Could the glove moment have been diffused? Do today's heightened forensic standards prevent such mismanagement? Or do new technologies create fresh blind spots? Each question is bound upstairs in the complex, overlapping layers of this criminal theater. 31 years have passed since a trailblazing football hero was accused of a brutal crime. Simpson has passed on, but the cultural echoes of media spectacle, racial tension, forensic evolution, domestic violence awareness, and justice's public face remain. In revisiting the case with newly disclosed documents and modern docuseries, younger generations confront a chilling truth. A murder is unpunished in criminal court, civil liability followed, prison came later, debts remain, and legacies are stained. Whether viewed through 1995 optics or 2025 lens, the O.J. Simpson saga stands as a cautionary narrative of celebrity, race, law, and the relentless glare of public attention. Long after the verdict, the immediate aftermath for the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman transformed grief into activism. Private pain gave way to public purpose. Nicole's sister, Denise Brown, who informed authorities on June 12, 1994, became a leading voice against domestic violence. She founded the Nicole Brown Foundation and consistently pressed for resource allocation and outreach to survivors. Denise's efforts didn't stop at charity. She advocated legislation to enhance protections for domestic abuse victims and amplified dialogue on court handling of such cases, drawing benchmarks from her sister's tragic fate. Her tireless work laid foundational momentum behind state-level reforms, and though often overshadowed, her contributions carry enduring resonance. Meanwhile, the Goldman family, silent outside the glare of courtrooms, channeled their loss into legal persistence. In the years following the civil judgment, Ron's father, Fred Goldman, refused to settle quietly. He prodded media outlets, petitioned for asset disclosures, held Simpson to court orders, and campaigned for broader restitution. Behind the scenes, he sponsored clemency petitions and monitored any financial or property moves connected to Simpson. Kim Goldman, Ron's sister, turned the court spotlight into a platform by co-hosting Confronting O.J. Simpson, an investigative podcast series examining institutional failure, evidence handling, and lingering damage. Through each episode, the victims' voices surfaced anew, reminding audiences that, for the Goldmans, justice remains incomplete. At the intersection of law and journalism, the Simpson case fueled new standards for evidence transparency, media conduct, and courtroom decorum. Court TV and CNN, and their successors, were pressured to draft operating procedures for live feeds, jury sequestration, and witness privacy. In juvenile and domestic violence courts, protective measures stemming from this case groveled into policy. Better trained bailiffs, limited cell phone access, delayed media access to crime scenes, and elevated background screening for forensic experts. From a procedural standpoint, legislators and legal professionals drew from Simpson's trial to solidify chain of custody protocols and crime scene isolation standards. These have, consciously or not, influenced justice systems nationwide, poising them to better resist public spectacle. Such reforms also hinged on a deeper reckoning in police cultures. Detective Mark Fuhrman, once a hero in the Rodney King case, became a cause célèbre during the trial. The prosecution's portrayal of him as a racist who manipulated evidence cast a long shadow over Los Angeles law enforcement. In the years following, the LAPD implemented enhanced bias training, new oversight policies, and public audit systems. While critics argue these were partly cosmetic, even superficial efforts signal the case's status as a turning point. It didn't fix systemic racism in policing, but it cracked open the discourse, creating room for accountability debates that persist in today's Black Lives Matter era. Meanwhile, DNA science, which featured prominently in the trial, inherited new scrutiny and refinement. Across the late 1990s and early 2000s, the field underwent methodological upgrades, conflating purity, quantification techniques, and interpretation thresholds. The Simpson trial had exposed analytical shortcuts, improper sample handling, and flawed reporting. In response, professional bodies such as the American Society of Crime Laboratory Directors tightened certification standards, promoted peer reviews, and advocated for transparent error logs. Evidence panels and accreditation processes now require field agents to adhere to documented protocols, an indelible legacy of what went wrong in 1994. Yet the case also offered cautionary tales in media ethics and the psychology of public trials. The Bronco chase, broadcast live, unrehearsed, pioneered what would become cable news, 24/7's real-time coverage. The trial itself was televised in full. Cameras swiveled on jurors, witnesses, attorneys, the judge, everyone. Critics have dubbed it trial by television. The spectacle spurred later guidelines on limiting camera angle coverage, anonymizing jurors, and preventing witness intimidation. But beyond logistics, the Simpson case forced society to grapple with citizenship's voyeuristic impulse. Were we watching history or soap opera? The question continues to resonate in today's true crime podcasts, documentary formats, and court cameras. On the cultural front, the case fed creative industries: novels, films, operas, television dramas, even Broadway musicals. Andre Leon Talley once observed Simpson's narrative arc, golden athlete to tragic villain, reflected America's paradoxical hero worship and obsession with downfall. In fiction and drama, the trial became shorthand for narrative tension between celebrity and guilt, race and perception, and the mythic weight of innocence until proven guilty. In today's landscape of streaming platforms and binge culture, the case has served as a model for season-long arcs, documentary introspection, and hybrid narrative formats that blur fact and reenactment. That said, despite such broad impact, the legal realities for Simpson himself remain complicated. At his death in April 2024, he still owed tens of millions to the Goldman family and other creditors. His estate, frozen, encumbered, became a test case in posthumous financial accountability. Under Clark County, Nevada, probate lawyers argued his assets, including memorabilia from his early football career, might cover part of the civil judgment. But litigation slowed. The Singapore memorabilia, championship rings, autographs, were subject to chain of custody dispute, licensing deals teased but never consummated, and Simpson's will, discovered late, allowed executors broad discretion. By mid-2025, ongoing negotiations hint that partial settlements may be achieved, but full restitution seems remote unless hidden assets emerge or estates are liquidated, raising ethical questions about lineage and forgiveness versus reparation and justice. One less publicized strand involves psychological world implications. Jurors in 1995, many later speaking off record, describe enduring guilt, pressure, or relief. Some faced blowback from their communities and struggle with permanence of their decision, despite confidentiality agreements. Psychologists studying post-trial juror experiences cite the Simpson case as archetypal of camera pressure on decision-makers. Ongoing juror testimonials, often in academic conferences and legal journals, probe how public trials affect rational judgment, jury nullification, and the democratic ideal of impartial adjudication. Professors at UCLA and USC now use transcripts and juror interviews from the case in courtroom communication and ethical law curricula, citing the Simpson trial as a key teaching moment. Another dimension, the explosion of parodies, comedy roasts, and satirical content. Simpson jokes once peppered late-night TV and SNL skits, but tension remains around whether humor around domestic violence is safe, ethical, or harmful. In recent years, comedians and ethicists debate whether satirizing the case crosses a line, especially amid rising awareness of survivors' narratives and a changed cultural tolerance for punchlines at the expense of victims. Some mainstream outlets have discontinued special edition parodies, while independent comedians still use the case as social commentary, arguing that satire is a tool for collective reflection rather than disrespect. Meanwhile, education about domestic violence has since ingrained the Simpson case as a key historical marker. Leadership in schools and nonprofits often incorporate the details, Nicole's prior 911 calls, visible bruises, court filings, to illustrate the complexity of abuse, shame, and socioeconomic power dynamics. They caution against romanticizing athletes or men of status as immune, and they stress early intervention, safety planning, and protective orders. Throughout the 2000s, grassroots activism leaned on the Simpson narrative to expose how systems sometimes fail to protect victims, to justify helpline funding, and to reframe public discourse from victim blaming toward structural prevention. From a racial justice lens, scholars have revisited the trial repeatedly, some arguing it exposed American racism's resilience, others claiming it merely displaced widespread anger via media spectacle. Academic journals in criminology and sociology analyze the jury's not guilty verdict as a form of collective protest rather than acquittal. The trial has entered curricula in racial politics, especially on how minorities perceive law enforcement, prosecutorial bias, and legal epistemology, shaping a generation of activists and legal reform advocates. The case didn't spark full-scale reform of discriminatory policing, but it sharpened public scrutiny of data-driven disparities in arrest rates, sentencing terms, and plea bargains that soon followed in policy debates. Internationally, the Simpson trial became emblematic of American exceptionalism in crime coverage. British, Australian, and Japanese media dissected the trial as a foreign spectacle, omni-shown yet misunderstood culturally. The case influenced how criminal justice systems abroad thought about open court policies and suspect anonymity. In the UK, for instance, the high publicity nature of certain fraud and murder trials triggered inquiry into celebrity coverage ethics. In Australia, jurisprudence debated anonymized evidence production to buffer media heat. Thus, the ripple effects of Simpson's trial rolled across oceans, framing global conversations on trial by media well into the 21st century. In the digital transformation of court reporting, the Simpson case served as a prototype. Transcripts were instantly available through early web forums. GIFs of the glove moment appeared in nascent internet culture, and chat rooms debated the case in real time. By 2025, legal technology experts trace courtroom livestream protocols back to lessons learned from Simpson-era coverage. tools tracking witness demeanor, AI-supported real-time transcription, and moderated courtroom engagement platforms stem from regulatory efforts that started with Simpson's televised drama. Thus, the case is showcased in EdTech showcases as the inflection point between trial as legal proceeding and trial as entertainment. In the end, O.J. Simpson's name is tethered to undeniable greatness on the field, and to horror, controversy, and ambiguity off it. The Bronco chase, the glove that didn't fit, the deeply flawed police work, the racial tensions, the media marathon, the civil judgment, the later armed robbery, the debts, and now his death. Each chapter reshaped American society in small and seismic ways. Every new document, every docuseries, every legal twist invites fresh questions about evidence and bias, about forgiveness and fury, about the weight of history and the limits of both the courtroom and the camera. The story is not closed. As scholars, journalists, families, law students, activists, and citizens continue examining the archives and producing new narratives, the case remains a live conversation about crime, culture, and conscience. It's a national mirror reflecting limitations and a call to harness lessons learned toward a more just future. 31 years later, and well beyond any verdict, O.J. Simpson's saga still speaks, not only of what happened, but of who we were, what we believed, and where we might go from here. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, what are your thoughts on the O.J. Simpson case? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.